Heartwarming truth exposed, inspiring CEO's 4.5B deal cancelled after unexpected card refusal. In a bustling small town where dreams collided with reality, Lucy Hartman opened her eyes to a new day. The sun shone through her window, illuminating her worn-out kitchen table where breakfast awaited her son, Jake. Each morning was a battle, not just against time, but against the past that lingered like a shadow. As a community bank teller, Lucy poured her heart into each interaction, hoping to craft a brighter future for Jake. She often envisioned him in a better life where college was a given, not a dream, and where every morning didn't come with the weight of worry on her shoulders. Just across town, however, the world rattled. Tom Harrison, once the epitome of success, found himself grappling with failure. The $4.5 billion deal he had banked his entire career on crumbled at the black tie gala when a simple credit card mishap exposed the fragility beneath his polished facade. In that stark moment, surrounded by whispers and confusion, Tom felt a tightness in his chest. The bustling extravagance of the gala faded, replaced by a silence that spoke volumes about the vulnerability hidden within his high-powered life. Lucy's day at the bank unfolded like any other. Her smile welcomed a stream of friendly faces, but behind that smile lay an impending storm: her estranged father's return. Memories peeled back the layers of her heart, revealing hurt from years of absence that cut deeper than she would admit. She threw herself into her work, serving her community with unwavering commitment, especially when news spread about a local veterans organization on the verge of collapse. "I can't let this happen," Lucy vowed one evening, the determination in her eyes gleaming like the stars above. The organization's struggle wasn't just a financial issue, it was the hope of veterans and their families hanging in the balance. She began rallying the townspeople, igniting a collective spirit that resonated through the town's streets. Town meetings filled with passionate speeches, laughter, and tears became the heartbeat of the community, reminding everyone that together they could rise from despair. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the town rallied around Lucy, her dedication spilled over into her life. She began to question what true success looked like. Was it the wealth housed in the high-rise buildings like Tom's? Or was it standing at the forefront of communal love and resilience? Both Lucy and Tom found themselves at crossroad moments, the former mending the scars of familial relationships, the latter confronting the flaws in his seemingly impeccable world. Meanwhile, as Lucy prepared to confront her father, engaging all her courage, an urgent call reached Tom, a revelation that the collapse of his deal could ripple through the lives of workers, teachers, and families in her town, including Lucy's. With stakes high for both, the echoes of their pasts loomed larger than ever. The question weighed heavily in the air: could forgiveness bridge the divide, or were some wounds too deep to heal? The answer danced tantalizingly close, beckoning them both toward the unfolding drama of their intertwined destinies, leaving readers across the nation eager for the next chapter. Lucy stood in front of her mirror, the faint outline of her father's familiar face flickering in her mind. It had been years since she last saw him, but the memories remained sharp. Would he even recognize her? Her heart raced at the thought of their upcoming confrontation. She wanted to scream at him, to share all the pain he had caused, but somewhere deep down, she wondered if she might find a sliver of forgiveness. She brushed her hair back and inhaled deeply, steeling herself to face what would come. The town was alive with energy as the rally for the Veterans Organization approached. The streets filled with laughter and banners fluttering in the warm spring breeze. Lucy had saw the determination in her neighbor's eyes, and it filled her with a mix of pride and anxiety. She was an anchor, yet here she was, preparing to deal with her own tumultuous past. As she stepped outside, a gust of wind greeted her, as if whispering encouragement. Meanwhile, Tom stood on the balcony of his high-rise office, staring down at the city below like an emperor surveying his domain. Just days ago, he had everything: a thriving company, an enviable reputation. Now, he was merely a man grappling with his failure as uncertainty loomed like a dark cloud above him. As he replayed the moment at the gala, the sting of humiliation was still fresh in his mind. But guilt twisted deeper, knowing how this might affect the very people he had always considered disposable. Would families suffer because of his misstep? As he paced the floor, his phone buzzed loudly in his pocket. A message popped up: news about the veterans' rally in Lucy's town. For a moment, he hesitated. This was his chance to make amends. Maybe he could lend a hand, to revitalize those golden sparks of hope in a community he had overlooked. The thought ignited a flame in him: this wasn't just about recovering his fortune anymore. He needed to make things right, not just for himself, but for the lives he might have jeopardized. Later that evening, as Lucy took her place on the makeshift stage, her heart pounded like a drum. The crowd was a sea of faces: friends, neighbors, and strangers, all united for a cause that had started as just an idea in her kitchen. With tears brimming in her eyes, she emphasized the importance of standing together, reminding them that they were family. Every laugh, every memory, every struggle mattered. As she finished her speech, the applause was thunderous. But through the triumphant cheers, she was hyper-aware of her father standing at the back, his expression unreadable. Tom's heart swelled with admiration as he watched Lucy speak, realizing that this was the tenacity he had long forgotten. With every powerful word she spoke, a new resolve settled within him. He couldn't just watch from the sidelines any longer. It was now or never. He stepped forward, pushing through the crowd, his resolve hardening. As Lucy caught sight of him approaching, her breath caught in her throat. What was he doing here? Would she find anger or hope in his presence? It was a moment tangled between fear and uncertainty, each heartbeat echoing the possibilities. The crowd started to part, and the noise around them faded into a hush. They stood face to face across the expanse of unresolved pain. The tension was palpable, and in that charged silence, they both felt the weight of their fragmented history pressing in. Lucy heavily clutched the podium, eyes wide, as she wrangled with the emotions swirling in her heart. In that pivotal instant, they stared into each other's eyes, and one thought resonated between them both: was this the moment of reckoning they desperately needed? Would the conversation that followed reshape their lives forever? What she didn't expect was for him to take the first step forward. Tom stepped forward as if the very air between them pulled him closer. Lucy's heart raced. Was this the moment he'd apologize, the kind of apology that could melt years of resentment? Or was he there to defend his choices, to explain why he had walked away? She took a breath, wanting to scream but feeling paralyzed, a tangled mix of anger and hope. The crowd held its breath, eyes darting back and forth between them. Murmurs rose, swelling like the tide. "What's happening?" one woman whispered to her friend, sharing the tension that hummed in the air. For a moment, Tom paused, searching Lucy's face for a sign. Her expression was a battlefield of emotions, vulnerability hovering over a wall of mistrust. He finally spoke, his voice steady yet shaken. "Lucy, what are you doing here?" She interjected, her words sharper than she intended. This was the man who had left, who had turned his back on family. Anger surged inside her. "You think you can just walk in and fix things?" Tom winced at the words, the sting hitting deeper than he expected. "I'm not here to fix everything, Lucy. I need you to know I'm sorry. For everything." The sincerity in his eyes caught her off guard. This man, once a towering figure in her life, had become little more than a ghost she hoped to forget. Yet here he stood, stripped of pretense, bearing the weight of regret. Was it wrong to feel a flicker of sympathy amidst her hurt? Around them, the crowd's anticipation swirled, eyes glued to the duo caught in their own moment. Tom continued, his voice barely a whisper now, but every word echoed with conviction. "I can't undo the past. I can't erase the pain. But I want to understand. I want to be part of your life again if you'll let me." Lucy's heart raced. Could she trust him again? Her mind raced with memories, the laughter, the silence after he left, the moments she had fought through alone. Why now? She said, her voice steadier than she felt. What changed? I've been lost, he admitted, the raw honesty surprising her. This past week made me realize what truly mattered. The people I overlooked, including you. I want to support this town, this 'cause your cause. More than anything, I want to support you. Please, give me that chance. Lucy felt the weight of the decision crushing her chest. Could she bear the thought of accepting his help, then having him walk away again? But a shy spark of hope flickered a possibility that maybe, just maybe, they could rewrite their story. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, a loud shout from the back of the crowd interrupted the moment. Hey! Isn't that the CEO who ruined our jobs? A ripple of unrest surged in the audience. Tom's face blanched, and the air thickened with a collective tension. The promise of reconciliation hung like a fragile thread, threatened by the anger echoing from the crowd. As voices grew louder, Lucy felt torn. She had a choice to make, one that could shatter the tense atmosphere or solidify her own strength. Would she defend the man who had hurt her, or would she let the anger of the town dictate their fate? In that charged moment of chaos, she recalled all that had led her to this rally, the people rallying behind her. This wasn't just about her conflict with Tom, it was about the community she had vowed to protect. And as she glanced at Tom, something deep within whispered that the real conversation was just beginning. Would she find the courage to speak her truth amidst the storm? Her heart pounded, determined to find her voice. With fire igniting in her chest, she stepped closer to the crowd, ready to reclaim not just her voice, but a sliver of her heart. Would it be enough for both her and Tom to move forward, or was this a turning point to deeper divides? Lucy took a deep breath, the air tasting sharp with tension. The crowd's anger felt like a living thing, undulating, growing as they faced Tom, the man their community blamed for their struggles, for the jobs lost. Her heart raced, not only with fear but with rising conviction. Everyone, please, she called out, her voice slicing through the gathering storm. The murmurs quieted momentarily as faces turned toward her, surprise and bewilderment written on their features. She knew she needed to hold on to this moment and steer it. Before you judge him, listen for just a second, she pleaded, locking eyes with Tom, who stood uncertainly, vulnerable but hopeful. She swallowed hard, her earlier anger swirling into a mixture of complex emotions. I feel betrayed. I feel hurt. But I also know that anger won't solve anything. We won't get our jobs back by shouting, we need to find a way to make our voices heard differently. The crowd shifted uneasily. Some nodded, while others crossed their arms, holding on to their doubts. A man spoke up from the left, his voice dripping with skepticism. You think this guy cares about us? He walked away when it mattered most. It was all too easy to see the pain and resentment, she felt it rip through her own memories. He did, she replied, feeling the heat of the crowd. But I believe he is here now trying to change that. Tom's eyes shifted from her to the murmuring audience, his face a portrait of regret and desire for redemption. You're right, he interjected, courage breaking through his fear. I didn't care then, but I do now. I want to address what I've done to you, to this town. I want to help you deserve that chance. The crowd's restlessness abated slightly, some willing to listen, others still skeptical. Lucy felt a flicker of hope stir again. Maybe they were both on the precipice of something significant. If we want change, we must meet it halfway. If we fight against each other, we can only expect more of the same, she urged, her heart pounding with the weight of her words. The tension in Tom's shoulders eased just a little as he stepped forward, clearly wanting to be part of this but still weighed down by the past. I understand your anger. I can't change what happened, but I promise to listen even if it's hard. I want to know how I can make amends. His vulnerability radiated, pulling in some of the crowd's skepticism. A woman near the front, an undeniable leader in her own right, didn't let go of her mistrust. But will you actually back it up? Actions speak louder than words. The words echoed around like a truth that proved their collective struggle. Lucy felt a moment of clarity. And that's what we need too, she agreed. A chance for action. We need a plan. To hold him accountable. But first, we need to be willing to give him a chance to show he can make a difference. At that moment, a distant siren wailed, the sound of urgency breaking through the charged air. The atmosphere shifted, everyone felt the weight of their emotions. It wasn't just about Lucy and Tom anymore. It was a community standing on the brink of either healing or further division. Tom's expression hardened with resolve. I commit to being here. Not just for the plea to save face, but for understanding what's necessary. Not just in this moment, but for the long run. We have to start somewhere, right? As hope began to mingle with cautious optimism, Lucy felt the undeniable spark of possibility. But even as she relished this moment, deep in her gut, she sensed that the opposition from the crowd wouldn't simply dissipate. Every choice they made from here had consequences, each word could spark their fight toward a new beginning or ignite further resentment. What happens next? She asked, her voice firm but laced with lingering uncertainty. Could they truly unite a community torn apart? The crowd's response hung thick in the air as they awaited the next move. In that pivotal moment, Lucy realized that not only her past with Tom was at stake, but the entire future of this town also hung in the balance. Would they find solidarity, or would this be the moment that drove them farther apart? The murmurs of the crowd began to swell again, uncertainty hanging in the air like a dense fog. Lucy took a careful step forward, her heart thumping in her chest. The atmosphere felt electric, charged with the hopes and fears of her friends, neighbors, and even her own doubts. She remembered how many times anger had reigned when cooperation could have built bridges. Listen, she said, trying to harness their attention, we're all here because we care about this town. We want it to thrive again, to feel alive like it once did. We know it won't happen overnight, and we can't do this alone. She glanced at Tom, his face a blend of anxiety and determination. But it starts with conversations. It starts with action. If we're going to move forward, we'll need to work together. Even with him. Tom nodded, the sincerity on his face evident. What I've done left scars. But I promise to face them. I will work alongside all of you, not just as your former CEO but as a member of this community. His voice cracked slightly, revealing the weight of regret he carried. A woman in the crowd shouted, and what proof do we have? Words mean nothing if they aren't followed by actions. Lucy felt a rush of warmth, recognizing that this voice held the heart of the people. I understand your hesitation. We all want proof. We deserve that. But behind every action is the willingness to try. We can build a plan together, hold him accountable every step of the way. But we have to start somewhere. Just as her words sunk in, the sound of footsteps approached. A few locals stepped out from the shadows, faces weary but determined. We have our own ideas, one man said, holding up a makeshift sign that read, Jobs Now. The crowd's attention shifted again, voices rising in a mixture of support and dissent. Lucy felt a swell of affection for this community. Their fire burned brightly, and she loved that spark, even if it was still wild and chaotic. Yes. Bring your ideas. This is a brainstorming moment. Let us discuss how we can revive our town. Together. Yet, as she spoke, she could feel the old divisions beginning to rear their heads. The skepticism was palpable, she could almost see it like an ice wall creeping back into view, ready to freeze progress. Tom caught her eye. Let us schedule a town meeting, he suggested, voice steadying. I'll come prepared with real proposals, steps we can take. Just give me the opportunity to show we can work together, and I'll listen to every voice that needs to be heard. The crowd started to murmur again, mixture of hope and hesitation laced among them. Lucy sensed apprehension but also a glimmer of interest. Let us see it then, someone called, and others nodded. Lucy felt adrenaline coursing through her. Then it's decided. We set a date. A meeting to lay out our plan and see what we can achieve. This isn't just about Tom, it's about all of us. Let us take action. With those words, Lucy watched as some faces lifted, curiosity taking root. But others remained rigid, caught between disbelief and a refusal to trust easily. As the crowd began to disperse, tension still hung in the air. Lucy felt a mix of excitement and exhaustion wash over her. She had sparked a flicker of possibility, but would it be strong enough to ignite lasting change? With Tom at her side, she felt a twinge of hope, yet the road ahead loomed large and uncertain. What kind of plan could they create together? Would the community take that leap of faith into a new beginning? The anticipation sat heavy in her chest, a question waiting to unfold. Would they unite for their shared future, or would they slip back into silence before they could truly begin? The days leading up to the town meeting felt like an endless loop, each moment imbued with a mix of fervent hope and haunting doubt. Lucy reviewed her notes at the kitchen table, surrounded by a sea of crumpled papers. Every proposed idea brimmed with potential, but would they resonate? Would the community truly come together? She peered out the window, where the trees flinched under a brisk wind. Leaves danced in spirals, mimicking the whirlwind of thoughts swirling in her mind. Would they accept Tom? Would they lay down the animosities that had simmered for too long? The clock ticked louder, each second a reminder that the meeting was drawing near. Meanwhile, Tom was busy crafting tangible proposals. He believed in what he was doing, pouring himself into every detail, recalling the very faces he had once taken for granted. Now those faces were a blend of memories and realities, a reminder of his past mistakes. On the night of the meeting, the community center buzzed with an energy that felt slightly apprehensive, a blend of excitement and an undercurrent of resistance. Lucy arrived early, noting the slight tension in the air. Folding chairs filled with weary eyes flickered with skepticism and hope, a mirror of her own mixed feelings. When Tom entered, a hush fell over the room. His presence was like a magnet pulling on the crowd's emotions. Lucy noticed the way some people straightened up, their defiance shifting subtly into curiosity. She felt the heat of the moment, and her heart raced as she scanned the crowd. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Tom began, his voice steady. "I know Haven Tea made it easy for us to stand in the same room together. But I'm here not just to present ideas, but to listen. To truly listen." He paused, meeting the gazes of those around him. "Tonight is about forging a way forward together." As he spoke, Lucy watched faces soften slightly, a flicker of recognition passing through the crowd. Tom laid out his plans clearly, from job creation initiatives to community gardens, to rebuilding local infrastructure. He spoke of accountability, of working alongside them, not above them. Lucy wished she could capture the moment, the hope simmering just beneath the surface, but then it came. "What makes you any different? You have a history of failure," a voice cut through, rising sharply from the back of the room. Lucy's stomach knotted. She could see Tom brace himself, but he didn't back down. "You're right, and I take full responsibility for that." His frankness hung like a heavy curtain, drawing in soft gasps. "It's why I want to earn your trust from the ground up. I can't change what I've done, but I can show you I'm willing to do the hard work to change the future." The murmurs intensified again, a rapid-fire blend of skepticism and intrigue, as the community grappled with the idea of forgiveness. Lucy felt a shift in the air, a crack in the icy walls that once felt impenetrable. Then, someone in the front row raised a question that sent a ripple through the audience. "How can we make sure you stick around this time?" Tom looked out at them, a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. "By creating a partnership. An agreement that safeguards our community. I want your input on every project, every decision." Lucy took a deep breath, sensing the tide might be turning. "This is the essence of building trust," she said, adding her voice to the mix. "Accountability goes both ways. We all have to show up, and we have to be prepared for hard conversations ahead." As discussions ignited, excitement surged, and ideas began to flow freely. Visions of the town's revival brightened the atmosphere. Lucy felt her heart lift, but a shadow loomed at the back of her mind. Would the fractures heal quickly enough? The night drew on, each person weaving their hopes into a larger tapestry. Plans were laid, but beneath it all lingered an unspoken threat. the struggle for unity wasn't over. As Lucy stepped outside, she noticed the sky darkening with the coming storm. She knew storms passed, but would they find shelter together? Would the trust take root before it was too late? The questions surged back, sharp and real. Tomorrow would be decisive, and every choice they made in that fragile moment would echo for years to come. What would happen when the storm broke? Would they emerge stronger, or shatter beneath the weight of their past? The next morning, the sun struggled to break through the thick clouds, casting a gray hue over the town. Lucy felt the weight of anticipation pressing down as she sat at her kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee that had long gone lukewarm. She couldn't shake the restless energy that buzzed within her, the uncertainty clinging to her like an unwelcome visitor. She had tossed and turned all night, replaying the community meeting in her mind. Tom's words echoed, by creating a partnership. A part of her wanted to believe it. The pictures of vibrant gardens and bustling local shops danced in her imagination. But would the townsfolk hold on to that vision when faced with the reality of their past grievances? After a few moments of contemplation, she picked up her phone and tapped a text to Tom. "Can we meet? I think we need to talk before the follow-up meeting tonight." She hit send, hoping he would understand the urgency in her voice. Across town, Tom sat in his office, staring at the plans pinned on his wall, the colors bright against the dull backdrop. Each proposal was a lifeline, a chance for redemption, yet he felt the imprints of doubt creeping in. Would Lucy come through? Would the community rally behind him? The ringing of his phone startled him from his thoughts. It was Lucy. "Lucy, I'm glad you called. I was just thinking about you about last night. There's a lot of energy, but, Tom, can we meet face to face?" She interrupted, her voice steady but laced with tension. "I think we need a strategy for tonight. There's something I sensed among the community, a hesitation that could easily turn back into resistance." "I'll be there in 10, he replied, his heart racing as he grabbed his jacket. The cafe on the corner was bustling, a cacophony of laughter mixed with the smell of fresh pastries. Lucy had chosen it because it felt lively, a contrast to the heavy cloud that loomed over their continued efforts. As Tom walked in, he spotted her sitting at a corner table, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the wooden surface. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, motioning for him to sit. "I think we need to address the elephant in the room." "Right," he nodded, eager to hear her thoughts. "It's about forgiveness and trust, isn't it? Too many people still see me as just the past." "Yes, but it's more than that. They want to know we're not just talking." She leaned in closer, "but that you genuinely mean to build and commit." Tom felt that old familiar fire ignite within him. It had taken him years to gather the courage to face his community, and now he needed to find a way to remind them that change was possible. "What if we create a community council?" he proposed. "Something that puts accountability back in their hands. They could oversee the projects and ensure everything aligns with our discussions." Lucy considered it, her brow creasing. "It could work, but we have to really sell it. If they feel like they're part of the process, it might encourage that healing." Tom leaned back, a sense of hope washing over him. "Let us outline this. Work out the details, make it tangible. Something they can hold on to. But we need to present it with conviction. Lucy, we've got to be ready for skepticism." "Yes," she replied, her energy igniting at his response. "And we must be prepared for tough questions. If we show them we're ready for honesty, that might just tip the scale." As they dove into the planning, their discussions became a flurry of ideas. They scribbled notes on napkins, brainstorming ways to connect with the community in a way that felt genuine. Time flew until the cafe buzz faded into the backdrop of an impending storm, a reminder of the brewing emotions they were about to face. When they finished, Lucy looked at Tom, a mixture of excitement and nerves in her eyes. "Tonight's meeting will let us know if we can break the cycle. It's our chance to either unite them or risk pushing them away." "We're ready," Tom said, a firm resolve in his voice. But as they stepped outside, the first drops of rain began to fall, a reminder that the path ahead would be Anything but smooth. Would they be able to weather the storm together? Tonight would reveal whether trust was fragile or unbreakable. What awaited them in the stormy skies? The tension in the air was palpable as Lucy and Tom made their way to the community center. Each step felt heavier, laden with the weight of responsibility. The rain came down in sheets, a relentless drumroll that mirrored their anxious hearts. They exchanged glances, both searching for reassurance in the other's eyes, but finding only the reflection of their own doubts. As they entered the building, the sounds of murmuring voices filled the large hall. Chairs were hastily arranged, the flickering fluorescent lights casting an eerie glow over the crowd. Familiar faces turned toward them, expressions carved from skepticism and hope intertwined. Lucy could feel the pulse of the community surrounding her, a mix of anticipation and reluctance ready to tip either way. "Let us stick to the plan," Tom whispered, squeezing her shoulder. Lucy nodded, recalling the trust they had tried to build amidst the uncertainty. Standing side by side at the front of the room, they presented a united front, yet their hearts raced like the storm outside. "Thank you for coming," Tom began, his voice steady despite the churning in his stomach. "Tonight marks a pivotal moment for our town. We understand the hurt and anger, and we want to take steps toward healing together." A voice cut through the crowd like a knife. "But can we really trust you?" It was Mrs. Henderson, a longtime resident who had seen the town change, and not always for the better. "Your plans sound nice," but Tom took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. "I know trust isn't easily regained, but I'm here to earn it. We want to work together to create a community council that gives you a voice. We want you to guide this process," he replied, the words hanging heavy in the air. Lucy watched Mrs. Henderson's face soften slightly, but the hesitation remained. "A council sounds great, but what's in it for you? Why should we believe this isn't just another scheme?" As the difficult questions continued, nerves began to press in on Lucy. Each inquiry felt like a test they hadn't fully prepared for. But she kept reminding herself they had each other, and that their collective determination could foster change. "I understand your concerns," Lucy interjected, her heart racing as she spoke. "We're both committed to transparency. This isn't just a project for us, it's about rebuilding connections. It's about ensuring future generations have a vibrant community to cherish." Her voice wavered, but she pressed on. "It's about healing the scars of our past." The crowd seemed to lean in closer, whispers circulating like ripples on a pond. As this energy surged, a man in the back raised his hand, uncertainty written all over his face. "And if things go wrong again? If you decide to disappear like before?" Tom felt a knot tighten in his gut. "If we fail, then you have every right to hold us accountable. But we won't let that happen again. Together, we'll define our path." The discussion danced between hope and skepticism, but gradually, the tide began to shift. People started sharing their ideas, fears, hopes. Each voice added solidarity, weaving a tapestry of shared experience and desire for change. As the meeting wound down, Tom could see the flicker of something new among the crowd. Hope. When it ended, people lingered, talking among themselves, energized by the idea of taking control. "I think we did it," Lucy whispered to Tom, a shy smile creeping onto her face. But as they turned to leave, a figure someone neither of them expected stepped forward with a crucial question that seemed to hold the power of the past and future in their hands. Would their response turn this momentum into a wave, or would it send them crashing back into doubt? "Why should we believe you this time?" The voice cut through the hum of conversation. Lucy's stomach dropped as she recognized that it was Mark, the local shop owner who had been vocal against past leadership. His expression was a mixture of suspicion and concern, and she could see others leaning in to catch his words. Curious, Tom looked momentarily taken aback. "I understand your frustration, Mark. Our past failures aren't easy to forget. But this isn't just about what Lucy and I want, it's about what you all want. This council will let us shape decisions together, not in isolation. We can't promise perfection, but we can promise effort." Mark shook his head, unconvinced. Effort isn't enough when people's lives are at stake. We've heard it all before, plans that sounded good but fell apart when it mattered. What assurance do you have for us? Real assurance. The directness of Mark's question silenced the room. Lucy's heart raced. She had hoped their sincerity would be enough. She could feel the weight of the community's eyes, awaiting a response that could either shatter hope or build a bridge. Maybe our words aren't enough, Lucy began, stepping forward. But we want to hear your voices, your experiences. Each of you has lived through the good and the bad here. If we come together, learn from each other, we can't just create plans, we can create a legacy. We can keep each other accountable. There was a stirring in the crowd, people exchanging glances, whispering among themselves. For a fleeting moment, Lucy felt a glimmer of hope, but she knew Mark's skepticism still loomed large. I want us to admit our fears, she continued, catching a breath and pushing on, and share our stories. It's painful, yes. But we have to acknowledge where we've been to understand where we're going. Mark's brow furrowed, and he crossed his arms. You really think a council can erase the past? What makes you think we can trust you to do the right thing? That's where you come in, Tom interjected, his tone growing firmer. This council will belong to you. If it falters, it'll be because we didn't listen or communicate effectively. I can't control everything, but I can support this community. The whispers grew, evolving into a chorus of reflection as people considered their own experiences, the moments that had cut deep, and the healing they desperately sought. Lucy watched as the openness transformed the atmosphere. Even Mark, who was still frowning, seemed more engaged. Their exchange began to reshape doubt into curiosity. What would the first steps look like? What if we started with something small? Someone asked from the back. Great idea. Let us find a project that we can all rally around, Tom encouraged, his enthusiasm bubbling over. As discussion blossomed again, Lucy felt her heart lift. One step at a time, they were embracing the possibilities laid before them. When the meeting finally wrapped, she felt at least a small alignment among the group, but the journey was far from over. As she and Tom began to gather their things, Lucy caught Mark's gaze again. We'll see if this council makes a real difference, he said, his voice softer this time. You're on thin ice, and we'll be watching. Outside, the rain had eased to a drizzle, the surrounding air fresher, somehow full of expectation. As they made their way to the car, Lucy felt Tom's hand grasp hers. We did well, he said, winding back the moment. Did we? She asked, still feeling the uncertainty swell within her. Better than expected. But tomorrow, we need to come up with real actionable steps, or this was just lip service. Tom's words lingered in the air like the fading drops of rain, each drop slipping into the night. As they drove home, Lucy felt the weight of reality settle back in. They were just beginning the climb, and a steep one it was. But there was also something else that clung to her heart, a sense of commitment blooming. Can we do this? She asked quietly, almost to herself. We have to, Tom replied, determination radiating from him. And as they moved forward into the night, a single thought took root in Lucy's mind. This was just the start. What would happen if they failed? And more importantly, what would happen if they succeeded? The sun peeked over the horizon, casting hopeful rays onto the town that had weathered so many storms, both literal and metaphorical. It felt as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for Lucy and Tom to set new wheels in motion. Today was the day after months of build-up. It was finally time for the community council meeting to unfold. Lucy stood at her kitchen table, a fresh stack of notes spread before her, each word carrying the weight of everyone's hopes and fears. She glanced at Jake, who clutched his school bag, bursting with eagerness for the day ahead. Mom, are you ready? He asked, his youthful excitement infectious. More than ever, sweetie, she replied, ruffling his hair and savoring the warmth his presence brought. She turned her gaze to the homemade poster on the wall, a collage of the town's remarkable residents, the dreamers, and the believers. An enduring reminder of the strength they all shared. Across town, Tom gathered his materials, his heart racing with anticipation. He had spent sleepless nights searching for ways to regain the trust he had taken for granted. This was not just a gathering, it was a chance to bridge the divide, to create a meaningful partnership with the townsfolk, something to preserve those bonds he had once allowed to fray. The memory of spirits rising in the rally echoed in his mind, a clarion call to stand tall and face the truth. As the community center filled with familiar faces, a buzz of conversation followed. Lucy stepped onto the stage, her pulse quickening with each step. She scanned the audience, each face a reflection of the town's resilience, but also uncertainty. "Thank you for being here today," she began. "We've all faced struggles, but we've also fought for each other. Today is an opportunity to come together and decide what we want to build moving forward." She felt a soft ripple in the crowd, a fraction of understanding sparking an opening. Tom joined her at the podium, and he felt the eyes of the community upon him. "I know I have a long road ahead," he acknowledged, trembling but steadied by a newfound resolve. "I want to work together. My past actions may haunt my footsteps, but today begins our path forward." That connection hung in the air, mingling with the scent of fresh coffee and pastries laid out beside them. Individuals leaned in closer, contemplating the sincerity echoed in his voice. As he laid out tangible steps for the council, he felt the weight of apprehension slowly lifting. "We want each of you to be part of this. I propose we meet regularly, allowing this council to grow organically and empowering every one of you." A hesitant voice rang out from the crowd. "And what if we don't see progress?" Lucy felt a familiar tension rise but fought to maintain her composure. "That's why we're here, isn't it?" she said, looking directly at the speaker, an older gentleman with stories etched in the lines of his face. "We acknowledge our challenges. But if we all commit to holding each other accountable, we must allow grace for our failures along the way." Murmurs of agreement floated through the room, and Lucy could feel the crowd soften. That glimmer of hope they had ignited months ago began to flicker back to life, each voice adjoined like a mighty chorus. Slowly, a plan began to take shape. Ideas were shared, initiatives brainstormed, and aspirations voiced. The crowd shifted from skepticism to engagement, and with each passing minute, Lucy caught sight of lingering anger fading into vibrancy. As the meeting wound down, Lucy felt her heart swell. They had taken the first step towards something tangible, a genuine chance for transformation. "Let us stay strong and meet next week for our first roundtable discussion," Tom concluded, beaming at Lucy, who radiated joy in response. But just as that promise hung in the air, the sound of glass clinking drew their attention. Mrs. Henderson stood up, her voice steady. "Let us make sure we keep communication open. But I really believe we can do this." Loud applause followed, and with it, eyes sparkled with a renewed sense of purpose. Lucy and Tom exchanged a look, a silent promise sealed between them. Together, they could usher in trust and renewal. As they exited the building, the sun shone brightly, illuminating paths that once seemed dark. Jake bounced along beside Lucy, unaware of the battle fought earlier that day. Life had just turned a page. Fragments of the past fell to the wayside, replaced by hope and determination. The united front they had built felt steadfast, yet Lucy knew the journey was just beginning. They had taken their first steps, but the real healing awaited them all in collaborative actions and accountability. "I believe in us," Lucy told Tom, her voice firm. "Me too, Lucy. We'll see this through," he replied, a radiant smile lighting up his face. The community was alive, breathing life back into their dreams. A town that had battled despair would rise anew, a resurgence of hope for the future, together, hand in hand. The moment was electrifying, a tapestry woven with the threads of healing, connection, and a brand new chapter waiting to unfold. Now, everyone, listen up. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss these exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. We can grow this community together. I want your reactions, your feelings about this inspiring ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means everything. Let's spread the word and inspire change.